Okay, let's dive right in. You know that feeling when you're driving to a completely new destination without a map, a GPS, or even a sense of which way is north? Yeah, that feeling of total chaos, just kind of making random turns and hoping for the best? Well, that is exactly what it's like trying to run a growing business without an operating system. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the exact step-by-step blueprint from Chapter 10 of Gino Wickman's book, Traction. We're looking at the Entrepreneurial Operating System, or EOS, and more importantly, the precise sequence you absolutely need to follow to get started and, actually fix that chaos.
This right here, this is perhaps the biggest paradigm shift in the entire methodology. Gino Wickman puts it perfectly. He says, one of the secrets to the EOS process is that we always start with traction first and then vision. Now that's incredibly counterintuitive, right? I mean, most business books will tell you to go on a retreat and dream up this massive 10-year vision first. But EOS argues that you absolutely cannot cast a successful vision until you have a rock-solid, disciplined foundation of execution right beneath you. We gotta build attraction first. So here's our blueprint for This Explainer. We're gonna cover the implementation secret, then the accountability chart, rocks and the meeting pulse, scorecards, the V/TO, and finally, how to effectively roll out the system. All right, part one, the implementation secret, where sequence is literally everything. Here is the exact 5-step blueprint of those foundational tools. Look, if you want to gain traction, you don't just pick and choose at random. You have to follow this specific order. Accountability chart, rocks, meeting pulse, scorecard, and finally, the V/TO. And running underneath all of this, kind of holding the whole shebang together, is the vital practice of being a process documenter, ensuring your core processes are actually recorded and followed by everyone. Remember our secret rule here. We're building traction layer by layer way before we ever get to the vision. Which brings us to section 2, the accountability chart. This is your foundation. Think of this as pouring the concrete foundation of our house. We always start here because it smokes out underlying issues almost instantly. It fundamentally rethinks the traditional org chart by separating major functions, specifically highlighting the difference between a visionary, the person dreaming up the big ideas, and an integrator, that steady force actually managing the team day to day. By mapping this out, you establish exactly who owns what, completely stripping away all that operational confusion. But listen up, because here is a crucial warning straight from the source material. Map the structure first and put names in the seats second. To avoid typical company politics and bruised egos, you absolutely have to design the ideal structural chart for your business before you ever assign a single person to a seat. This is what ensures everyone operates in their unique ability, rather than, just molding a broken structure around existing personalities. Moving right into section 3, rocks and meeting pulse, the framing. So with our foundation poured, it's time to build the framing of our house. We know who is accountable, now we have to establish what they're actually doing. First up, your rocks. Now, rocks are clear, 90-day priorities designed to keep everyone focused on what is most important. Because, let's face it, when everything is important, nothing is. It actually takes about 2 quarters of practice to really master this. If you rush it, you're going to spend an entire quarter pointed in the wrong direction entirely. And that brings us to the number 90. 90 is the absolute rhythmic heartbeat of a healthy company. You have your 90-day rocks, and, as we'll see next, your 90-minute weekly meetings. This rhythm keeps the business pulse totally steady and predictable. And that rhythm perfectly translates into the meeting pulse. Look, if you've ever dreaded another pointless Tuesday morning catch-up that just drags on forever, the Level 10 meeting agenda is your antidote. Seriously, look at how incredibly strict those time limits are. 5 minutes for a segue, 5 to review the scorecard, 5 for rocks. The real magic here is the consistency. It must be the same day, the exact same time, with the exact same printed agenda every single week. It might sound a bit rigid at first, but this discipline actually saves you an immense amount of time over the long run. Now, the bulk of that Level 10 meeting, a full 60 minutes of it, is dedicated to IDS. That stands for Identify, Discuss, Solve. This is where the real work happens. You really have to fight the urge to solve issues during those quick reporting phases at the start of the meeting. If a metric is off on the scorecard, you simply drop it down to the issues list. You want to save all your problem-solving energy for this dedicated hour where you identify the root cause, discuss it as a team, and then solve it for good. All right, section 4, scorecards, because everyone needs numbers. We've got our framing up, so it's time to run the electrical wiring through our house. The data. A core principle of getting started with EOS is that everyone has a number, a specific, measurable metric they are entirely accountable for.
This data component empowers you to monitor the business from anywhere, just at a glance. A properly built scorecard completely removes the need to go ask 6 different people for the real story. The absolute pulse with your business is literally right at your fingertips. So, the absolutely crucial point here is understanding the difference between traditional reporting and EOS data. Your standard profit and loss statement, that's a trailing indicator. It just reports the past, and, well, you can't change the past. But an EOS scorecard is made up of activity-based numbers. It's predictive. By tracking weekly activities, you're empowered to actually make corrections and change the future before a bad quarter ever happens. It's a real game changer.
Section 5, the Vision Traction Organizer, or as we call it, the roof.
We finally have some traction, which means it's finally time to put a roof on our house using the Vision/Traction Organizer. This high-level EOS model seamlessly translates into the V/TO document. It radically simplifies strategic planning by getting everything out of your head and condensing the entire vision of your company onto just 2 highly actionable pages.
Here are the 8 core elements you'll answer on the V/TO. It takes you from your long-term core values and 10-year target all the way down to your 1-year plan and 90-day rocks. But take a really close look at that very last bullet point, the issues list. It might seem kind of strange to put a list of problems right there on a vision document, but it's absolutely necessary, because once you know exactly where you're going, you have to list out all the obstacles that stand in your path so you can knock them down.
Finally, Section 6, rolling out the system, tier by tier. Okay, so how do we actually get the whole organization to use all this? Well, rule number 1 is totally non-negotiable. You must master the tools with the leadership team first. Wickman gives a very strict warning here. Any chink in the leadership's armor will rip wide open if it's rolled out to the rest of the company too soon. The executive team has to literally live it and breathe it before they even try teaching it.
So the rollout strategy is highly deliberate. First, mastery by the leadership team. Next, you introduce it to the people who report directly to that leadership team. Then, you roll it down to the next tier, and so on. You really have to take this at your own speed. If you try to force a 250-person company to adopt all these tools in a single month, the system will collapse. Go tier by tier to ensure that foundation remains perfectly stable.
Which brings us to the ultimate question. Now that you have the blueprint, which foundational tool will you build first to gain traction in your own organization? I'm going to challenge you right now. Resist the urge to do everything at once. Resist the urge to go sit on a mountain and dream up a massive vision while your daily operations are stuck in chaos. Instead, pick up the accountability chart, draw out your ideal structure, and take that very first crucial step toward true business mastery. Thanks for learning with me today on this explainer. I'll see you next time.